Namaste, Namaskar, and good afternoon to one and all present here. Greetings from the Department of Education and Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Prabhat Kumar College, Contai. My name is Dr. Ratan Sarkar, Assistant Professor of at the Department of Teachers Training and Head of the Department of Education, Prabhat Kumar College, Contai. It's my privilege and honor to welcome you all to participate in this special lecture on Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose, a forgotten warrior, which has been arranged by the Department of Education and Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Prabhat Kumar College, Contai on a very significant day. We are indeed happy and delighted to have you all with us for this occasion. Thank you for joining us enthusiastically at a very large number from different parts of the country. Now, I would like to request Dr. Amit Kumar, the Honorable Principal of Prabhat Kumar College, Contai, to please welcome our revered dignitaries, distinguished speaker, esteemed faculties, valued participants, and dear students who have virtually connected to us for this particular program.
Thank you, Dr. Ratan Sarkar.
Thank you, sir.
Professor Dhrubajyoti Bhattacharjee, namaskar, and welcome to this webinar platform of PK College, Contai. Actually, I think Dhrubajyoti sir is from Bengal.
I'm from Kolkata.
Yeah. Then you are staying at Kolkata, Delhi, or Probasi Bangali. Okay. That means you are able to understand the language Bengali. Thank you, sir. Yes. Prabhat Kumar College পক্ষ থেকে আমি আপনাকে এবং আজকে যে সকল শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকা শিক্ষাকর্মী এবং ছাত্রছাত্রী এই ওয়েবিনারে বিশেষ দিনে উপস্থিত আছে তাদের সকলকে জানাই স্বাগত। প্রকৃতপক্ষে আজকে আমাদের ৭২তম প্রজাতন্ত্র দিবস, মানে ৭১ বছর আগে আমাদের ভারতবর্ষ এই দিন বিশেষ দিনে বিশ্বের কাছে একটা সার্বভৌমত্ব সভরেনিটি লাভ করেছে। তো এর আগেই যখন রতনবাবু আমাকে বলেছিলেন তখন আমি খুবই খুশি হয়েছিলাম। এই প্রোগ্রামটা আমরা 23শে জানুয়ারি করবো ভেবেছিলাম, কিন্তু পরবর্তীকালে আমরা সেটাকে শিফট করে 26শে জানুয়ারি করেছিলাম। তার কারণ এই দিনটা এবং 23শে জানুয়ারি বোথ আর ভেরি মাচ ইম্পর্টেন্ট ফর আস। তো সেই কারণেই আজকে এই ওয়েবিনার, এই সায়ান্নে মানে দিনের সায়ান্নে আমরা এখানে উপস্থিত হয়েছি। আর একটু পরেই আমাদের জাতীয় পতাকা নামিয়ে নিতে হবে। এই বিশেষ দিনে আজকে যার কথা, যাকে নিয়ে বর্তমানে যার 125তম জন্মবার্ষিকী নিয়ে গোটা ভারতবর্ষ, বিশেষ করে আমাদের বাংলা জ্বলছে বা একদম কি বলবো উজ্জীবিত জ্বলছে। হয়তো কথাটা একটু খারাপ শোনায়, কিন্তু প্রকৃতপক্ষে আমরা জানি না কি হচ্ছে। যদি আমাদের সেই মহান ব্যক্তি আজকে বেঁচে থাকতেন এবং তিনি যদি দেখতেন তাকে নিয়ে গোটা ভারতবর্ষ তথা বাঙালি এত উদ্দীপনায় ভরপুর, তাহলে তিনি সেই সময় মনে হয় যে ভারত ছাড়ো কি বলে যে মুভমেন্টটা করেছিলেন ভারতবর্ষকে স্বাধীন করার জন্য, সেটা মনে হয় আরো আগে হয়ে যেত। তো যাই হোক, যা হবার হয়ে গেছে। এখন আমরা আজকে উপস্থিত হয়েছি আমাদের সেই ফরগটেন যে হিরো নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্র বসুর সম্বন্ধে একজন বিশিষ্ট ব্যক্তির কাছ থেকে আমরা জানতে পারবো, যা আমাদের ছাত্রছাত্রীদেরকে নতুন করে উজ্জীবিত করবে আশা করি তাদের মধ্যে, তাদের ভেতরে, তাদের অন্তরের ভেতরে দেশপ্রেম জাগিয়ে তুলবে। এই দেশনায়ক যার জন্মদিন উপলক্ষে বর্তমানে কেন্দ্রীয় সরকার পরাক্রম দিবস এবং রাজ্য সরকার দেশনায়ক দিবস হিসাবে ঘোষণা করেছে। আমার মনে হয় এই সকল ব্যক্তির কিছু কণা মাত্র যদি আমরা আমাদের নিজেদের ভেতরে একটা প্রথিত হয় বা তার কোনো কিছু জিনিস যদি আমরা গ্রহণ করতে পারি, তাহলে হয়তো আমাদের দেশ যেদিকে যাচ্ছে সেদিকে না গিয়ে আরো উন্নতির দিকে যাবে, আরো উন্নত হবে, এটা আশা করি। তাই এই প্রজাতন্ত্র ৭২তম প্রজাতন্ত্র দিবসের সায়ান্নে এসে প্রফেসর ধ্রুবজ্যোতি ভট্টাচার্য আমাদের সামনে রিসার্চ স্কলার, তিনি টিচার, তার অনেক কিছু আছেন, সেটা আমাদের রতনবাবু বলবেন। তো এইরকম একটি পূর্ণ দিনে একজন মহৎ ব্যক্তি, একজন মহান ব্যক্তি, একজন দেশনায়ক, একজন বীর স্বাধীনতা সংগ্রামীর বিষয়ে আমাদের যে সকল ছাত্রছাত্রীরা জানতে পারবে, তার জন্য আমি শুধু গর্বিত নয়, আমরা আমাদের শিক্ষক, শিক্ষিকা, শিক্ষাকর্মী এবং আমাদের ছাত্রছাত্রী সকলেই আপনার কাছে কৃতজ্ঞ। আপনাকে কোনো কিছুতেই কোনো কিছু বলে ধন্যবাদ দিয়ে আমি ছোট করতে চাই না। আশা করি আমাদের আজকের যে আলোচনা সেটা বিশেষ মনোগ্রাহী হবে, শুধু তাই নয়, এবং তাঁর কথাবার্তা শুনে, সেই মহান ব্যক্তির কথাবার্তা শুনে যদি আমরা আমাদের জীবনে কিছুটা অন্তত পরিবর্তন করতে পারি, তাহলে হয়তো আমাদের দেশ ও মাতৃকার কিছুটা হলেও উন্নতি হবে। আমরা সমাজের উন্নতি করব, বেশটি নয়, এখানে সমষ্টিটাই বিশেষ গুরুত্বপূর্ণ এবং সমষ্টিটাই বিশেষ উল্লেখযোগ্য। আমি আমার বক্তব্য দীর্ঘায়িত করব না। আবারও কলেজের পক্ষ থেকে ধ্রুবজ্যোতি বাবুকে ধন্যবাদ জানাই, স্বাগত জানাই, এবং আশা করি আগামী দিনে যখন নর্মাল লাইফে আমরা ফিরবো, নিউ নর্মাল লাইফ থেকে এই প্যান্ডেমিক সিচুয়েশন কাটিয়ে, তখন হয়তো সাক্ষাতে আপনার দর্শন আমরা পাবো এবং আমাদের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা আপনার সান্নিধ্য পেয়ে গর্বিত হবে। এই কটি কথা বলে আবারও আপনাদের সকলকে প্রীতি শুভেচ্ছা এবং আমাদের ৭৫তম প্রজাতন্ত্র দিবসের হার্দিক শুভকামনা জানিয়ে আমি আমার বক্তব্য শেষ করছি। ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন। ধন্যবাদ। ওভার টু রতন সরকার।
Rotan, you will have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind support, valuable time, and warm welcome address. Today is the 26th of January, and it is celebrated as the Republic Day of India. On 26th January 1950, 3 years post-independence, India turned into a secular, sovereign, socialist, and a democratic republic. The freedom, justice, equality, liberty, and fraternity that we are enjoying today is an outcome of thousands of sacrifices made by many great visionary leaders and bold heroes who born in India and fought till their last breath. Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose is the most significant, serious, and inspiring name in this connection to recall. The life of Bose is a story of struggle. It is a story of a young dreamer that tells the saga of consciousness, struggle, and success in every eye. One who has the power to reap the ground with his arm. One who talks about making a hole in the sky. One who is highly committed to achieve his goal. One who does not accept anything for free. And if he wants freedom, he is ready to spill his blood. Thousands of people sacrificed their lives on Netaji's call. He created an army against the British in no time. Netaji was born in Kotok in Odisha in 1897, graduated from the Scottish College, Kolkata in 1918, and proved his mettle by becoming the Indian Civil Service officer. And he has not accustomed to a life of comfort and amenities that come with his job. He was a warrior who always wanted to live in free India. He always loved his country. Not only did he embrace the freedom movement wholeheartedly, but also he became an inspiration for freedom. With the slogan, "Give him blood, I'll give you freedom," he started preparing to awaken the country. Such listen to him. Sorry, there was some network problem maybe. So such was the charisma and philosophy and personality of Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose that who has ever listened to him or worked with him or contacted him has been greatly inspired. Netaji was also fluent in many Indian languages. Netaji's struggle for freedom proved to be an inspiration not just for India, but for all the third world countries. The Indian freedom struggle and the war of independence led by Subhas had a profound impact on those countries. His popularity skyrocketed and he became Netaji to to the general public. Netaji's status establishes him as the hero of freedom globally. Bose is also credited with the living global identity to the Indian leadership. Netaji used to say that if a person is not obsessed, he can never become great. And today's special lecture is on a topic, namely Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose, a forgotten warrior. Is an initiative by the Department of Education and Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Prabhat College Contai to commemorate his work, contribution, struggle, and philosophy of Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose, and to pay a tribute to the national hero of this country. To help us to achieve this objective, I do firmly believe, and I'm very much confident rather, to say that we have with us a brilliant think tank, a distinguished scholar, and a notable speaker, Dr. Dhrubajyoti Bhattacharjee, sir. He is a research faculty at the Indian Council of World Affairs, Sapru House, New Delhi, and I'm sure that we all will be highly enlightened by his scholarly lecture on the topic chosen. Before I request Dr. Bhattacharjee, sir, to go ahead with his valuable lecture, I would like to take the privilege and honor to introduce him to the audience present here. Dr. Dhrubajyoti Bhattacharjee is a research faculty at the Indian Council of World Affairs, Sapru House, New Delhi. Prior to joining the Indian Council of World Affairs, Dr. Bhattacharjee was an assistant professor at the Department of Political Science, Siliguri College, affiliated to the University of North Bengal. For 10 years, from probably 2005 to 2015, he received his MPhil and PhD from the Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He has been working extensively on Pakistan's foreign policy decision-making under civilian and military leaderships. Apart from contributing many chapters in edited book, he has published a book on Pakistan's foreign policy decision-making. He has also written numbers of research papers and contributed many articles in various journals of national and international repute. He has also contributed many research papers and articles in web journals, newspaper, as well as for the Indian Council of World Affairs. He has made numerous presentations and delivered several lectures nationally and internationally. His areas of interest include terrorism, human security, foreign policy, decision-making of India and Vietnam, India and Israel, South Asian politics, political and strategic development in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Association of Southeast Asian Nations. I will not take any more time to introduce him with my limited knowledge and understanding. He has been well defined and introduced to the circle of intellect by his exceptional research-based work and remarkable contribution. He has been crowned by his rare intellect and distinctiveness and originality of his ideas in his areas of interest. Now, with this few words and with due respect and honor, I would like to request our most respected speaker of the day, Dr. Dhrubajyoti Bhattacharjee, sir, to enlighten us with his valuable words and lecture. Thank you, sir. It is over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. I am honored that I have been invited to deliver a lecture on this platform and this auspicious day. I would also thank Principal Amit Dey for allowing me to make this presentation. It is an auspicious day, as has been mentioned, the 72nd Republic Day of India and the 125th anniversary of Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose, as well as we need to also see that on 15th August 2021, we will start celebrating our 75th independence of the 75 years of independence. So altogether, this year remains to be a conglomeration of very eventful and very many important days and years. Speaking about Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose is very difficult to basically completely speak about him or respectfully acknowledge all the aspects what Netaji represented in his brief life, because there can be institutions created just to study his life, his understanding, his philosophy, his astounding adventures, and feats that his life practically represented. Subhas Chandra Bose, as an outstanding leader of the Indian national movement, has been a legendary figure which has been almost worshipped as a great hero and a charismatic leader. A study of his biography unfolds before us his unflagging zeal as an empiricist in gaining a theoretical foundation for a plan of action in his own personal life and also in the Indian freedom movement. And in this respect, we can take numerous names who he was influenced by, especially his own parents, then Beni Madhub Das, who was the headmaster of the Ravenshaw Collegiate School, teachings of Ramakrishna Paramhans, Vivekananda, Aurobindo Ghosh, Chittaranjan Das, Lenin, Mustafa Kamal Pasha, De Valera, Joseph Mazzini, Count Cavour, Garibaldi, and the impact of freedom movements in other countries such as the American War of Independence, the Italian struggle for liberation and unification, the liberation struggle in Czechoslovakia, and the Irish struggle for freedom. In this background, his social, economic, and political concepts were empirically formulated for an objective observance and ramification with the sole objective of emancipation of Mother India from the British rule of exploitation and oppression and reconstruction of free India. The credential of Subhas Chandra Bose as a socio-political thinker will be well traced on a careful study of his activities, letters, writings, speeches at different phases of the freedom struggle. Most of his speeches were extremely fiery and influential. It indicated a process of evolution of his social, economic, and political concepts, connected with the development of his own mind, responding to the shifting environment in India and the then world outside. The sum of his ideas and convictions constitutes his philosophy, though he was more of an actionist and believed in implementing his thoughts into action. Though not much credible research has been carried out on this legend, on his 125th birth anniversary, we should vouch that we will concentrate on carrying out thorough research on Netaji. It was under the influence of his parents that Subhas Chandra Bose developed a profoundly religious and spiritual frame of mind and love for Hindu scriptures from his early life to the last days of his glorious career. His religious and spiritual propensity was further elevated and broadened in contact with the teachings of Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Vivekananda. He always had a small copy of Bhagavad Gita in the breast pocket of his field uniform. He would plunge into deep meditation at dead hours of night, even in the battlefields of Southeast Asia. At the time of the proclamation of the provisional government of Azad Hind, he took the oath. In the name of God, I take this sacred oath that to liberate India and the 38 crores of my countrymen, I, Subhas Chandra Bose, will continue the sacred war of freedom till the last breath of my life. Again, on the day of taking over direct command on the INA, on 26 August 1943, he said, I pray that God may give me the necessary strength to fulfill my duty to Indians under all circumstances, however difficult or trying they may be. Again, in his address to the Indian National Army at Singapore, he said, may God now bless our army and grant us victory in the coming fight. Subhash Bose accepted the Upanishadic concept of Tyaga and imbibed the ideal of renunciation for self-realization and became determined to work ceaselessly for the benefit of the country and its toiling masses. Bose, being a secularist, had an attitude of impartiality towards all religions. According to him, the government of free India must have an absolutely neutral and impartial attitude towards all religions and leave it to the choice of every individual to profess or follow a particular religion of his faith. Religion, for him, was a private affair. It cannot be made an affair of the state. Bose was of the firm opinion that economic issues cut across communal divisions and barriers. The problems of poverty and unemployment, of illiteracy and disease, of taxation and indebtedness affected the Hindus and Muslims and other sections of the people as a whole. That the remedy lies in the solution of the political problem on the establishment of a national, popular, and democratic government in which people will have direct right to participate and indirect right to criticize. Scientific propaganda was prescribed by him on the above lines to combat communalism. Shah Nawaz Khan said that for Subhas, there were no religious or provincial differences. Hindu, Muslim, and Sikh soldiers in the Indian National Army, which I'll forward will refer to as INA, were made to realize that they were sons of the same motherland. That most of ardent supporters and admirers of Netajis were found to be Muslims. Another close associate of the Netaji, S.A. Iyer, said that communal harmony of a high order prevailed among the ranks. In his unfinished autobiography, An Indian Pilgrim, we find Subhas to quote, "I was lucky, however, that the environment in which I grew up was on the whole conducive to the broadening of my mind. The atmosphere was on the whole liberalizing. His paternal house in Udia Bazar, Cuttack, was in a predominantly Muslim locality, and their neighbors were mostly Muslims, amongst whom his father, Janakinath Bose, was like a patriarch. Janaki Babu had Muslim servants and cooks. The Bose family took part in Muslim festivals like Muharram. Bose writes in his autobiography, in fact, I cannot remember even to have looked upon Muslims as different from ourselves in any way except that they go to pray in mosque. Subhash Chandra Bose's father was a government pleader and public prosecutor and became a member of the Bengal Legislative Council and earned the title of Rai Bahadur. But he resigned from the said post and renounced the title of Rai Bahadur as a protest against the repressive policies of the British government. Moreover, he was a regular visitor to the annual sessions of the Indian National Congress and a staunch supporter of Swadeshi. Thus, Subhash inherited the spirit of nationalism from his father. In his early life, as a student of the Protestant European school run by the Baptist Mission, Subhash exhibited his spirit of nationalism when discriminatory treatment was made against Indian students. His expulsion from the Presidency College for being involved in the Eton affair in protesting against the sense of racial superiority of the British is a glaring example of his spirit of nationalism. He expressed his feeling of satisfaction. I had rather, I quote, I had rather a feeling of supreme satisfaction of joy that I had done the right thing, that I had stood up for our honor and self-respect and had sacrificed for a noble cause. Subhash's nationalistic zeal was further heightened under the influence of Swami Vivekananda. Vivekananda's call, I quote, say, brothers, at the top of our voice, the naked Indian, the illiterate Indian, the Brahmin Indian, the pariah Indian is my brother, unquote, had the echo in the heart of Subhash. Aurobindo's spirit of renunciation and his sacrifice of lucrative ICS career to devote to politics impressed Subhash all the more. Aurobindo's synthesis of spiritualism and nationality had tremendous impact on Subhash. He resigned from the civil service on account of his nationalistic zeal. He writes, I quote, it is not possible to serve one's country in the best and fullest manner if one is chained to the civil service. In short, national and spiritual aspirations are not compatible with obedience to civil service conditions. I unquote. In his letter from Cambridge, addressed to Deshobandhu Chittaranjan Das, he had firmly expressed his decision to resign from the civil service and join the freedom movement. On his return from Cambridge, he plunged headlong into the national movement. Subhash Chandra Bose developed an ethical approach to life based on sacrifice, renunciation, self-abnegation, and self-sacrifice, which is in a way the core of a democratic way of life. This ethical and spiritual ideals contributed to his formulation of a political philosophy in consistence with Indian culture and civilization. I quote, the big joint family taught him love, generosity, kindness, patience, tolerance, cooperation, and sympathy, the very ingredients of democracy, unquote. That Subhash valued freedom of thought and action also in larger social context is evident from his later dated on 18/7/1915, written to his friend Hemanta Kumar Sarkar. Nobody, I quote, nobody has really the right to interfere in anybody else's individual philosophy of life or speak against it, but the basis of that philosophy has got to be sincere and true as Spencer's theory is. He is free to think and act so long as he does not infringe on the equal freedom of any other individual, unquote. On the changing concept of freedom, he said, I quote, the concept of human freedom has changed in ancient times, by freedom, people of India meant spiritual freedom, renunciation, freedom from lust, greed, etc. But this freedom also included freedom from political and social bondage. I unquote. Subhas's emphasis on individual, his dignity and identity, it did never allow him to accept the totalitarian doctrine that the state is the master, the individual the servant. Although in need of a political system, a state of an authoritarian character in place of a so-called democratic system, he meant a state. It will work as an organ or as the servant of the masses, the servant of the people. The political foundation of democratic philosophy is the supremacy of the people as the source of authority. Due to the influence of Swami Vivekananda, Subhas had developed immense faith in the power of the people, which is evident from his later dated, the 23rd of March 1920, written from Cambridge to his friend Charu Chandra Ganguly. I quote, Swami Vivekananda used to say that India's progress shall be achieved only by the peasant, the washerman, the cobbler, and the sweeper. These words are very true. The Western world has demonstrated what the power of the people can accomplish. End quote. Subhas Chandra Bose imbibed the ideas of his political mentor, Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, and spiritual mentor, Swami Vivekananda, in regard to female education and female emancipation, and used to cite the examples of noble and scholarly women of ancient India like Maitreyi, Gargi, Khana, and Lilavati. Bose wanted that women should be given a very elevated position in the family and society and believed in female emancipation in the true sense of the term and in liberating women from all shackles and artificial disabilities, social, economic, and political. According to him, in the free India, there must not be any discrimination on ground of caste, race, sex, creed, or wealth. The glorified role played by women in our national struggle, especially during the civil disobedience movement, with undaunted bravery and exemplary spirit of sacrifice, shaped his attitude towards women. The love and affection and help he received from few women, especially his own mother, Prabhavati Devi, Siya Das's ideal consort, Bashanti Devi, and Sharat Chandra Bose's wife, Bibhavati Devi, had enormous influence in shaping his views about women. Subhas Bose rightly diagnosed that illiteracy and economic dependence were the root cause of serfdom of women. Bose spoke firmly in favor of removing all obstacles in the way of women's emancipation. He spoke in favor of all-round education for women, for which he formulated a recipe which included literacy, physical, and vocational education or training on light cottage industries. He was a supporter of widow remarriage and abolition of the Parda system. Subhas, in later years, commended the glorified role played by Indian women in the Indian freedom movement, notably in the Congress movement and civil disobedience struggle led by Mahatma Gandhi, in which they had been equal to men in addressing public meetings, conducting election campaigns, taking out processions in the face of lathi charges by the brutal British police, and undergoing privation of prison life, torture, and humiliation. Netaji's firm belief was that no country could really be free if her woman did not enter the arena in the fight for freedom in various capacities, like serving in hospitals as nurses, looking after wounded soldiers, and such other auxiliary roles, and they can also take up arms against enemies. So he created the Rani Jhansi regiment, and that too, as it did not satisfy his faith in complete equality of women with men, he, in the provisional government of Azad Hind, appointed one woman cabinet minister, giving her a position after him in the order of preference. According to Subhas, education was necessary for character building and all-round development of human life. Education brings forth the internal discipline in the form of control or regulation of mind and thoughts, which in its turn produces external discipline of control of actions or deeds. His spiritual mentor Vivekananda was of the view that education is the manifestation of perfection already in mind. All knowledge, secular or spiritual, comes from the human soul. Thus, education helps to awaken the mind, which is the storehouse of all knowledge. Education would boost off character, morale, virility, and freedom of man. Likewise, Bose, in his reconstruction plan, dreamed of an independent India where citizens would be raised to the full status of man in the true sense of the term, so that they would breathe a free air of social, economic, and political justice and liberty. The problem of illiteracy was a fundamental problem to him. The idea propounded by John Stuart Mill that the democracy based on universal suffrage must be preceded by universal education was well understood by Bose, and therefore He advocated elementary education for all. As a socialist and humanist, he wanted mass primary education for all, and as an individualist, he was in favor of higher education for deserving, meritorious, and intelligent students. Bose realized that education is a force in bringing about a sense of national unity and solidarity, and for that, he was in favor of a common educational policy with a common script, which should be the Roman script, and the common lingua franca being Hindustani. In regard to the system of primary education, Bose was deeply influenced by the kindergarten system in Germany and Scandinavia, the nursery school of England, and the École maternelle of France. He was in favor of visual or sensory methods of education. Vivekananda's concepts of man, making, and character building elements in education influenced Bose so much that he wanted men of character to free India from the foreign domination. Bose firmly believed that no educational plan would be successful with a comprehensive system of teachers' training. Netaji is a reflection of India's might and inspiration. When the country is entering its 75th years of its independence, when the country is moving forward with the resolve of self-reliant India, then Netaji's life, his work, his decision is a big inspiration for all of us. There was nothing impossible for a person like him without stout intentions. He shook the consciousness of Indians living abroad and abroad. He strengthened the Azad Hind Fauj for independence. They have spread every caste, creed, made the people of every region a soldier of the country. At a time when the world was discussing the general rights of women, the leader made woman Rani Jhansi regiment and associated woman with him. He trained the soldiers of the army for modern warfare, gave them courage to live for the country, to die for the country. Netaji was seeing that if the British rule was heard from outside, it would be the most painful in the World War. He was looking to the future, that as the world progresses, the strength of the British will decrease, their grip on India will decrease. This was his vision. He was looking so far. I will conclude by saying that Netaji showed that the power which the sun never sets, the heroic sons of India, can defeat it in the battlefield. He had taken a pledge to lay the foundation of a free government of India, free on the land of India. Netaji also fulfilled his promise. He arrived in Andaman with his troops and hoisted the tricolour. The place where the British used to torture the freedom fighters of the country, punished Kalapani. They went to that place and paid their tribute to those fighters. That government was the first independent government of United India. Netaji was the first head of the Azad Hind government. I would like to take this opportunity to mention that in the Azad Hind forces, there were around 60,000 Azad Hind forces. 26,000 of them laid down their lives for fighting for the freedom of India. Today morning, when Prime Minister Modi went to the Amar Jawan Jyoti to pay his respects and tribute, India has fought 4 wars and has laid down 26,000 soldiers, and to have respect and tribute from us through the Amar Jawan Jyoti. But somewhere we have forgotten about those 26,000 soldiers of the INA who also laid down their lives. I think the time has come to recognize the sacrifices, the contribution in attaining freedom by INA and by Netaji on his 125th birthday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Your knowledge is beyond measure, and your excellence is beyond description. Your words and description were so powerful and rich. Your love, for the subject matter and the focus of today is very deep and high, and that is very clear from the presentation and the lecture that you made today here. And the way you presented is excellent and magical, and I'm sure that this will have a deep impact on this will have a deep impact on the minds of all the participants who are here today like me. You have helped us to understand and know Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose and his contribution for bringing the freedom of a country from a different dimension. And you have revealed so many things, so many ideas and philosophies that we are totally unknown of about Subhas Chandra Bose. Sir, when I was listening to you, I was just taking note of the questions, that has been raised by some of our participants, most probably some of our students and faculties. I would like to read out some of the questions, and I will have to have your, words on the same. So may I, sir, with your kind
Surely.
permission? Okay. So the first one is, sir, why did Netaji leave the Indian National Congress and later he praised Gandhiji? Because probably the name Mahatma was given by him to Gandhiji.
Now, there were serious political differences that had taken birth within the top political echelon with Subhash Bose. Subhash Bose, at that point of time, was so popular amongst the Congress and amongst the masses that he was overshadowing the then political echelons. And this rift created with Gandhiji as well as the then political leaderships with Subhash. Subhash knew the contribution that Congress was making, but he wanted his ways to come in through. So for that reason, it was less of political differences with Subhash because he fully supported the civil disobedience movement, but he wanted to practically contribute to the freedom movement by bringing in independence on his own principles, which was though based on equality, spirituality, but not much on the principles of nonviolence. For that reason, he practically created an army to counter the British army, which was practically at that point of time fighting its own war in the World War II. So it was that was one of the reasons why Bose thought of leaving Congress and creating his own Indian National Army.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is one more question, and it seems to be very interesting. And I was also wondering that, I should get the moment to ask you this. Since you have a good knowledge and deep understanding about all the policies of government and decisions of governments. Anyway, so the question is like this, that why has the government not yet revealed the mystery of Netaji's death, whereas he is such a significant person and such a hero for a country like ours? What is the threat of the government in revealing all this?
But we need to basically look at it in this way. It took 125 years, 75 years after independence, on his 125th birthday, that we have coined a name, Parakram. Like Deshonayak. It took us 75 years post-independence, long after his death, to even coin a name. He is a person of so much capability to influence the minds of the general masses that whichever party is in government, in the central government, may that be Congress, may that be coalition, United Front, may that be the present government, or whichever parties are there in the state government, have not pushed it in a manner which can practically come out to bring forth the details, because Netaji till date has the power to influence the people. He is not history. We have to remember he is present. Netaji till date is a person who lives within us. For that reason, we are extremely emotional. When we speak about Gandhiji, we think about as the father of the nation who died in 1948, and we have to follow his principles. But we are not speaking about principles over here, Ratan. We are speaking about the character, the person involved. For that reason, anything involved with Netaji is associated with controversy. For that reason, any government in power, those government which was not in power while in opposition, they clamored that please declassify all the files from Russia to from UK, whatever classified files are there in India. But whenever they come to power, they understand the threat that if these files are declassified, the impact that will make on the general masses, if any wrong was done, I'm not saying wrong was done, but if any wrong was done, which would come out from these files, it would make a significant impact in destabilizing masses. I think this is my personal opinion. I have not spoken with any government functionary because they stay zipped up. They don't speak about it. So it is my personal opinion that this one might be one of the reasons why the classified files has not been declassified.
Okay, so in one end, we are paying tribute to the work and ideas of Netaji, and on the other end, we are fearing to reveal the actual history and actual fact. So that's fine. I think the participant have got the right answer from the words that you have said. Anyway, sir, I have a very good question actually. I think this is a question maybe from the first year students. And I also, as a student of yours, I would like to know some facts about Vivekananda, and most probably, to know that facts, I can come up with a question like, how was Netaji as a student? Because we have seen that his revolting character in presidency. We have seen his extreme shraddha for his headmaster in Odisha, where he studied in school. We have seen that he used to carry forward the word said by his teacher, till his last day and last breath, even in the battlefield. So we would like to know, as a student of yours, and as a uh, and some of my students would like to know, few things about Netaji's life as a student, so that we can get something to be inspired.
Coming from a very, coming from a family where most of his elders, his parents, and everyone was quite academically enlightened, Netaji's childhood was groomed into studying the Upanishads, groomed into studying the various Hindu scriptures, groomed into studying Gita. And then while he was growing up, you can see, like, academically, as a student, he was brilliant. If he was not brilliant, he wouldn't have got a chance in the Baptist school, then in presidency, then in Scottish Church, and then scoring the ICS. So academically, he was very strong. He read significantly, because even when he traveled, even during in the jungles, he had his people carrying his books because he had to read. So for that reason, he stressed so much on education. Like, for that reason, in my presentation also, I mentioned that Netaji basically stressed not only on normal education, on vocational training, on primary education, on female education, on teachers training, all the aspects, because he felt that only through education the mind will become free, and when minds becomes free, it goes to create a free man. So a free man can then claim for a free country. So he brought that line that only through education can freedom be attained, because education will bring in the free mind, that free mind will bring in a free man, and that free man can aspire for a free country. So education for him was so important. So as a student, excuse me, so as a student, he built up his philosophy on those principles, that you cannot forget your principles, your history, your culture, and also think on scientific lines and grow and put those thoughts into action. And that has been his policy all through.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for wonderfully explaining, or throwing light on the question raised by the participant, as well as distinguished faculties and esteemed seniors here who are present on this virtual platform. And now I think we have come to the end of our today's program. So we are extremely happy that, sir, you have accepted our invitation in a very short time, and you have managed to get connected with us, even though you are so much busy with the kind of assignment that you have undertaken at your department and at your place. So thank you. With this, I just conclude, and I hope that in future as well, we'll have you here, and me and my faculties and my college, and of course, the entire team and our admin will be very happy enough and glad enough to have you here in person once we are getting into the normal life after this pandemic situation.
I'll be
So
honored.
with this wish, I just thank you, and I just convey my thanks to all the participants and my technical teams. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So with this, we are concluding today, and hope all of our participants have enjoyed the session.
Thank you. Thank you.
ভাই কোনো রোল নম্বর দিতে হচ্ছে নাকি রে? ভাই কোনো রোল নম্বর দিতে হচ্ছে? নম্বর দিই না, 94